moment we've shifted back to about a 50-50 in land use between livestock, which is only sheep, no cattle, and cropping. Within the livestock, we run 2 seed stock operations, a White Suffolk and a Pole Merino stud. Within the cropping program, it's I guess there's 3 or 4 aspects of that. We have canola, wheat, barley, and wheat with a grazing element with the grazing wheats, which are becoming a big part of the mix as well. With regards to the cropping enterprise, I've identified that as probably a weakness, and it's simply innate in me. It's not something that I'm overly interested in, and so as a result I employ a consultant. A few years ago when I went through a partnership breakup with my brother, I just realised I didn't have the time, inclination or capital to try and have a full sowing and harvesting plant. So I've got what I would think is one of the better croppers in the district. So he's allowed me to bring my cropping part of my enterprise right up to the cutting edge of technology without all that investment in time. So I do what I do well. I've put things in place to make sure that cropping enterprise happens to the best that it can. Sheep aren't anywhere near as labour intensive as they seem to get the rap for. I've invested heavily in a good set of Prattley yards that sheep run through and work well. I've invested heavily in electronic ID tags, computer software and things to capture all this information that I get, a peak hill sheep handling machine, so yeah, it takes a lot of the physical work out of it. So it's just a matter of investing in your sheep enterprise like people do in their cropping enterprise. I see a lot of opportunity in both the enterprises. The synergies between the two of them really work well, and I think if I pushed anything too much the other way, then I wouldn't have enough grazing wheat in the cropping program to shoot this system, and I wouldn't have enough lucerne in the grazing enterprise to be building soil fertility for the next cropping phase. I'm not a fan at all of chasing trends and whatever. Canola prices are great this year, but I'm not about to put my whole cropping program into canola. I'm a big fan of sticking to your program and doing it well. I've got about 1,000 acres of good dryland lucerne undersown and up and running now that I want to put a watering system and an electric fence system so I can really fully rotationally graze that country. And then when it comes back to the cropping phase, you're still nothing. You've still got big, good cropping size paddocks with nice big straight AB lines. Good improved pastures are really the engine room of our whole enterprise. When you get good established pastures like this, it gives you a great ability to get your genetics and everything to really perform to their potential. In the good years you can cut fodder, the surplus. There's a lot of advantages, but it's also day in, day out, it's just fixing nitrogen and just fertility for the next cropping phase. Mandy and I are certainly a husband and wife team. We make the decisions together. We spend a lot of quality time together in the sheep yards. A lot of the decision making really has to be within the context of how comfortable you are with yourself and how well you sleep at night. Along with Mandy and I, we do like to use a network of professionals and things like that, and obviously your accountant, you've got your bank manager, and you've got your network of peers, using your local resources like the local university and EH Graham Centre, and your local district agronomists. I have had the last 12 months 18 months a full-time employee, but once again predominantly he spends a lot of the time doing the spraying or fencing and things like that, and lets us specialise. 95% of the sheep work that we predominantly are doing, it requires 2 labour units, generally Mandy and I. I'm often doing the physical work and the things, and Mandy's capturing that data and recording it. I'm certainly a lot more conservative than I was 10 years ago. I guess 10 or 15 years ago we decided with benchmarking everything else that we're going to crop everything, and everything had to be really productive and use everything push it all to the 10th degree, and if you needed to buy in hay or oats, and you simply buy it in. But I've gone a full circle on that. We do conserve a lot of fodder now. Just on the cost side of the business alone, by running a 50% sheep enterprise, in any one year we've got a lot smaller gamble on the table than somebody's doing 100% of the cropping. Probably 5 or 6 years ago we got to 75-80% cropping, 25 to 20% sheep, and then we had those run of droughts and everything else, and that just, I felt, left our business hugely exposed. Climatic variability and things is probably the biggest risk component of our enterprise, and I didn't like hanging 80% of all those upfront costs and things like that on the line year in, year out on the hope of a spring. I've certainly seen the sheep thing as genomics come online. It could be just the next massive big jump like superphosphate was. I can see no real technological big jump forward in the cropping part of my enterprise. So when I look around the district and look at clients, I really feel in most of the mixed farming enterprises that I see, a very large percentage of the opportunity rests in the livestock side of their operation. The sheep enterprise and industry has been moving along and going forward with technological advances and productivity gains, but a lot of sheep producers or a lot of particularly mixed farmers haven't really been embracing it. When I look at our business, I'm starting to think that we can have very little influence on commodity prices, given that we're price takers with our commodities, very little influence on production, given it's so rainfall dependent and that's just what falls from the sky, but the cost you've got a really lot of control over. For me, this new shed that we built last year symbolises to a degree why I'm a committed mixed farmer and the benefits and synergies. I would have had a lot of trouble economically justifying building this shed just to put the machinery and the capital in it. I needed a new shearing shed. It would have been very difficult to justify the costs of a standalone shearing shed, and I also needed a ram selling complex for our stud sales. And so when I bundled them all together and looked at the project, all of a sudden it was very easy to be able to justify this capital improvement.